All right. Thanks, Alexis. Hey, everybody. It's nice to see some cameras on, right? It's always nice to see some of y'all's faces. But thanks so much for having me. Like Alexis said, my name's Belusa, the other wellness coordinator. And today we're going to talk about summer, which, I don't know about you, but my summers looked a little different than I thought it would, right? But a lot of what we're going to talk about is still relevant. Summer is awesome, right? We love summer. Where I'm from, summer's not 90 degrees every day, but it's hot down here, right? But we're going to talk about some of the different things that can happen in the summer that might make it not so fun. And just we're going to talk a lot about ways that you can protect yourself and prevent some of those not so fun things from happening. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And Alexis, feel free to launch any of the polls whenever you want. We have some poll questions for you, very important. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share. All right, let's get this up and loaded. And you can give me a thumbs up if you can see the screen okay. Perfect, beautiful. Make sure it loaded because, it's real cute, but it takes a minute to load up, right? So here we are, hot tips for a safe summer. We want you to stay cool, but we want you to stay healthy. We want you to stay safe, right? So we're going to talk about some of the most hazardous things that can happen in the summer. We'll try to put a fun twist on it. So we're going to start off by talking about the sun in skincare because this is one of the most important things that we will talk about today. And Alexis and I both love to talk about skincare. Don't get us started. We will go on for hours. So we got some different polls up too, so feel free to answer those as we go as well. So let's see if I can move the poll so I can see my screen. Let's see. All right, poll. I can't even see my screen, Alexis. What do I do?
If you command tab.
Let's see. I don't have a tab on. Oh, yes, I do. Now y'all can just see my background, huh? There we go. Okay, we're there. Technology, man, it's not my friend. So sun and skincare, here are some of the basics. So your skin is the largest organ that you have. You've probably heard that before. So we really do have to protect it every single day. 90% of skin aging, so we're talking about like wrinkles, crow's feet, pigmentation issues are actually caused by the sun. And so here's a fun fact. Your risk of melanoma doubles if you've had more than 5 sunburns in your life. And that is, skin damage is cumulative. So if you've had more than 5 sunburns anywhere on your body, big, small, you've just doubled your risk for melanoma. Probably, I see some faces that are like, ooh, probably a lot of us have had more than 5 sunburns. I know I have, but just one blistering sunburn. So if you've ever had a really severe sunburn that resulted in blisters, extreme peeling, sun poisoning, you might've heard that expression, in childhood or adolescence, that also doubles a person's chance of developing melanoma later in life. Wow, okay, right, you're like, that's a little scary. So we have to wear our sunscreen, right? We probably know all about, yeah, I know I should wear my sunscreen every day, but it can be kind of confusing to figure out what kind of sunscreen should I wear, or should I do this, should I didn't? So these are just a few basics about sunscreen. So you do want to look at the ingredients for your sunscreen. There are mainly 2 types of sunscreen. We have physical sunscreens and we have chemical sunscreen. So a physical sunscreen tends to reflect more light than it absorbs, and it tends to sit on the surface of our skin and reflect light more outward. It tends to be a little bit better for people with sensitive skin because it doesn't go so deep. And so if you're interested in a physical sunscreen, something like a zinc oxide or a titanium dioxide, those are active physical ingredients in sunscreens. But if you like those sprays, or you like to have something that feels a little bit lighter on your skin, you might want to look at a chemical sunscreen. There are a lot of different ingredients, but avobenzone is one of the most commonly used chemical sunscreen ingredients. So sensitive skin, you might want to think more about a physical sunscreen, but if you have skin that's a little bit more tolerant, a chemical sunscreen works too, which that actually will create like a binding, the molecules tightly bind together and create protection of your skin where they actually absorb the heat and disperse it evenly. So it's really up to you, but those are the differences there. Please apply a sunscreen of at least SPF 30. There's a lot of information out there. It says 90 and above is useless, right? jury's still kind of out on that one, but one thing we do actually know is that you have to wear at least 30. A lot of dermatologists will tell you between 30 and 50 is usually your best bet. But you do have to put it on 15 to 20 minutes before sun exposure. So very often we get to the beach, we put our sunscreen on, we just go right out in the sun, right? We should really be waiting at least 15 or 20 minutes to make sure that that sunscreen can do its job. And then we also want to look for broad spectrum protective sunscreens because those will protect us from both UVA and UVB rays. And so the way you know if your sunscreen is broad spectrum is it will say that on it, and it will say UVA and UVB rays. So, oh, that poll just popped back up. Oh, Lord.
I ended it.
There we go. So another don't assume that SPF 50 or above means that you can spend more time in the sun. Oh, I'm wearing SPF 60. That means I can spend 4 hours in the sun because SPF 30 should be 2, right? No, that's not really the assumption you should make. You should still try to limit your sun exposure regardless of the sunscreen that you are wearing. And also don't apply just once. You should be applying at least every 2 hours at the minimum. But if you're somebody who sweats a lot or you're being in and out of the water, you're going to have to apply more frequently. If I'm, I do have very sensitive skin and I'm very fair skinned. So I usually apply at least every hour if I'm at the beach, especially. So also don't assume that tanning lotion is sunscreen. What you really need to pay attention to is that SPF, right? So there are some tanning lotions that do have an SPF 30 or higher. Typically they're like SPF 15 or no SPF or like an 8. Still go for that SPF 30 regardless of what it is. And part of why we're so gung-ho about sunscreen is because skin cancer is so prevalent in the world, but especially the United States. I think Australia probably has this beat because they're in the sun a lot. But the United States is not so great with skin cancer either. And in fact, 1 in 5 Americans will actually develop skin cancer in their lifetime. So let's see, how many people do we have on this call, right? 28 people, right? So what, almost 6 of us on this call will get sunscreen or will get skin cancer. That's kind of a startling statistic. Over 9,500 Americans are diagnosed with skin cancer every single day. And every 2 hours, 2 people will die of skin cancer. So sometimes we're like, whoa, why aren't we talking about this more? And women who have ever tanned indoors actually are 6 times more likely to be diagnosed with melanoma in their lifetime. And that means if you've tanned indoors 1 time. So just 1 time can make your risk that much higher. It's kind of scary, right? I don't know about y'all, but when I was in college, I was one of those people who would hit the tanning booth and, oh, it's a healthy tan. There's no such thing as a healthy tan, folks. So just being really aware of our risk factors for skin cancer are important because more people are diagnosed with skin cancer each year than every other type of cancer combined. So cancer is very scary, right? This is something that I'm sure all of us, or even ourselves, have been affected directly by cancer. And the fact that you add all the other types of cancer together, you're still going to have less cases than we have of skin cancer. So it is something we need to take very, very seriously. But the good news is sunscreen and a few other things we'll talk about can help to make sure that we are preventing skin cancer or catching it early.
And so, Katie, before we move on to the next piece, we have a question from the crowd.
Sure.
Can you apply sunscreen too early, like an hour before? Is that too long before, or should we wait for that 15-minute window?
Yeah, you really want to wait for that 15 to 20-minute window, because if you wait an hour, then you should probably reapply in an hour as well, right? So that 2-hour window, think of it as this, like 15 to 20 minutes before you go in the sun, put on your sunscreen. You're good for 2 hours, more or less, right? Unless you're sweating, you're in the water, whatever. So yes, you can apply it too early because it won't be as effective. So definitely try to hit that 15 to 20-minute window, and then every at least 2 hours reapply.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Great question. So one of the best things that we can do to make sure that we can catch skin cancer early, or we're just being aware of our body, is to check your moles. So we probably all have moles. Some of us might have more than others. And there's a very handy little mnemonic you can use called Know Your ABCDEs. And so that stands for A, symmetry. So the top row of here, those are considered healthy moles. The bottom row are cancerous moles. So you can compare the difference. So a healthy mole tends to be symmetrical, whereas a cancerous mole, one half might not match the other. The border might be uneven, or there might be different colors around the border of a cancerous mole. We look at the color of our moles. A healthy mole tends to be one color throughout, but a cancerous mole might have a variety of different colors. Then we want to check D, the diameter. So usually if a mole is smaller than a pencil eraser, so that's really tiny, 1/4 of an inch, right? Tends to be safer. Especially those melanomas tend to be bigger. So check to make sure that size isn't too big, but even so, small moles can grow, right? So you want to look for E, evolution, right? If our mole changes in size, if the shape changes, the color changes, the border changes, that's also an indication that we want to get that checked out. So doing your own mole checks is a great first way to start this, but going regularly to a dermatologist. And if you have any questions about a mole, go get it checked out. It's better to be safe than sorry. One of the reasons why skin cancer, especially melanoma, takes so many lives is because people don't notice, right? So if you have questions, go check out the derm. And so we'll just debunk a few myths real quick about skin and sun. And so one myth is that you only need to wear sunscreen if you're in the direct sun. And the fact is that you can burn in the shade and you can burn indoors. So just wear the sunscreen. I am inside my home right now, but as you can see, there's light shining on my face. I have sunscreen on right now. I wear an SPF 50 on my face every day. So wear it, get in the habit, add it to your skincare routine. It should be the last step in your skincare routine in the morning. But if you're in the shade, you can still burn. So be cautious, put it on every day, especially on your face. A myth, getting a base tan is an effective way to prevent sunburn. We hear this a lot, right? And we actually hear tanning salons use this for justification about why they should stay open. But the fact is that any tan you get on your skin is sun damage, because that is your skin literally saying, ooh, I need to produce more melanin to protect myself. So any tan, so that's why there's no such thing as a healthy tan. The best way to prevent sunburn, with sunscreen, staying in the shade, wearing a hat, all of those things. Another myth is that sun exposure is necessary for vitamin D. While it is true that yes, you absolutely do get vitamin D from the sun, only about 15 minutes of outdoor time in the summer is all you need to get enough vitamin D. And you can also get that from supplements. And if you eat a healthy, balanced diet, you're likely getting enough vitamin D there as well. So we don't want to use that as an excuse for why we're laying in the sun for 5 hours. Oh, I need my vitamin D. You could have gone inside 4 hours ago and been fine, right? So the last myth is those with darker skin don't need to wear sunscreen or need to wear less sunscreen. And that is not true. Dark skin does have more melanin, but you're still susceptible to skin cancer. You can still burn. In fact, in research, African-American men and women were more likely to die from skin cancer than lighter skinned Caucasian people, simply because some of these myths are perpetuated that, oh, if I have dark skin, I can't burn. So if a person with darker skin does develop skin cancer, it often goes unnoticed for much longer, or people are thinking, I can probably, maybe I don't have skin cancer. So it is much more deadly in darker skin individuals. So if you do have darker skin, you still want to take those same precautions, check your skin, check your moles. Any questions about skin, sun care?
No new questions, but I did add in that to keep in mind that you can use your FSA dollars if you are on the state health plan and you opt into the FSA. You can use your FSA dollars to buy sunscreen. I put a little note there to be mindful of the vendor that you go through. Be sure to check with HR benefits for additional details. I'll try to find a link for that there. Jennifer says a ton of base makeup includes SPF now, like Bobbi Brown. Trust me. Oh yeah, you're at the right place if you want to talk about makeup and skincare. And then Naomi says, yes, sunscreen is part of your skincare routine, as the last step is a must. And waiting a few minutes after you put on your sunscreen and then do the rest of your routine is key.
Yep. And I will add, Even if your SPF, your makeup does have SPF in it, you still do need to wear sunscreen. The reason being that a lot of makeups are SPF 15 or 30, and 30 again is our minimum, but we don't wear enough makeup to provide that full coverage. So I think it's just an extra great step to have makeup with SPF. My foundation also has SPF in it, but you do still want to wear sunscreen before you put your makeup on. One thing I do hear from a lot of people, especially if you are somebody who wears makeup, is, oh, I don't like the way sunscreen feels on my face. That used to be me. Play around with a couple different sunscreens. If you need suggestions, Alexis and I got you. I'm a big Elta MD fan myself, so we can definitely help steer you in the right direction of sunscreens that are best for your skin, and give some recommendations. But absolutely, lots of great comments. Thank you all. And so to sum it up, wear your SPF 30 every single day, check your moles, find shade, and avoid tanning beds. I say we ain't arguing on this one. There is nothing good that will come out of a tanning bed. So embrace, if you're somebody who's insecure about being pale, embrace your paleness, right? Embrace it all. So we're going to move on next to heat-related illness. And what that means is there are two things we're talking about here. One is heat exhaustion. You've probably heard this term before. And heat exhaustion happens when our body's temperature rises higher than our natural cooling systems can control. So when we can't sweat it out or cool down. So things to look for are cool and clammy skin, feeling faint, feeling dizzy, nausea, a headache. And if you check that person's pulse, it'll likely be fast, but it will be weak. And so if you think somebody might be suffering from heat exhaustion, you want to get them out of the sun, put on cool, wet clothing if that's available to help cool down their body, get them to drink water. You can also incorporate sports drinks as well. Definitely want to avoid alcohol. If you only have alcohol available, it's better to not have them drink anything. And then if you're feeling kind of nauseous or faint, lie down, elevate your feet, stay in a nice cool place. And so that's what heat exhaustion is, but something even more serious can happen if we don't address heat exhaustion, and that's heat stroke. And so heat stroke is what happens when we don't address heat exhaustion and our internal body temperature rises to 103 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. And whereas heat exhaustion might be cool and clammy skin, heat stroke is hot, red skin, which typically it's dry, but it could also be damp. That body temperature is higher than 103. The pulse is fast, like heat exhaustion, but it's strong in heat stroke. So if you're taking someone's pulse and you really can feel it, that might indicate heat stroke. Nausea and vomiting, and then a lot of confusion and that loss of consciousness. So there are some similarities. When in doubt, call 911 because heat stroke requires immediate medical attention. If it's left untreated, it can kill you. It can cause serious brain damage and kill you. So very, very important to take it seriously. Move that person to a cool place, call 911, lower their temperature with a cold bath, cold towels, whatever you have available. But you don't want to give somebody anything to drink if they're having heat stroke. And that might sound kind of counterintuitive, but with especially if they're losing consciousness, drinking too much, and then if they lose consciousness while they're drinking, they can choke and it can cause other issues. So when in doubt, get them cool and call 911. All right. And so anyone like the beach? Me. So the beach safety is really, really important here as well. And so one of the biggest issues with going to the beach is rip currents. So you may or may not have heard of rip currents, but these are powerful, narrow channels of fast moving water. And they can even move faster than Olympic swimmers can swim. So they are very strong. They're also the leading cause of lifeguard beach rescues. So they can be kind of tough to spot, but we're going to give you a couple tips about how to spot a rip current on our next slide. But they often form where waves aren't breaking. So if you look out on the ocean, you'll see even if there's small waves, there might be a small area where there are no waves and it seems kind of cool, or the water might be rippling but calm. That's likely an area of a rip current. They can go all the way into the ocean. They can run out to the ocean. They can make a U shape, but they can be very, very dangerous. and they often form between sandbars as well. So let's say you're out swimming earlier, you recognize there was a sandbar. That oftentimes you'll find rip currents a little bit later in the day. So what happens if you get stuck in a rip current? The first thing is to try to relax and not panic. That is very counterintuitive, right? Because the second you realize you're in it, you just want to swim back to shore. Try to suppress that instinct, remain calm, try to stay afloat, yell for help, get the lifeguard's attention, and you want to swim parallel to the shore. Instead of swimming directly to the shore, swim parallel. Usually if you stay calm, you keep your head above water and you swim parallel, most people are able to get out of those rip currents within a few minutes. So, and especially if you're swimming at a beach where lifeguards are, which you should be, they're able to get out and rescue you very quickly. So, and if you are going to the beach, our little girl, Tammy here, says you have to practice social distancing, right? If you make a decision to go to the beach right now, we are still in the middle of a pandemic. So keeping your space, I say keep more than 6 feet apart at the beach, right? Practice CDC recommendations while you're at the beach. That's very important too. And so I won't play this video right now, but when we send out the slides, this is in here. This is a great video that shows real footage of rip currents and gives you some various tips on how to spot them. So even in this screenshot, you can see where the little play arrow is, how there's no waves breaking there. That's actually a rip current, and it's going pulling, it can pull you right out. So definitely check that one out when we send the slides.
And Katie, before we head on to the next slide, we've got a couple of comments in the chat pod. So we've got some ideas about heat exhaustion. Pamela has experienced heat exhaustion and has mentioned that it makes us more susceptible to it in the future. But then we've got some other folks out here who are thinking of, okay, I'm playing golf. Is there a temperature that you would recommend not being outside, not playing golf, if it might be a little too hot?
I think everybody's different. I would say use your best judgment. If, of course, like it's in the 90s here right now, right? And it's very hot. Those of y'all who are from the South, you know, might be a little more able to handle heat because you might be used to it. People like me from the Northeast, you know, maybe it's not for us. I would say listen to your body, and if you do want to go golfing and it is hot, practice safety and take precautions. So bring plenty of water, wear a hat, stay in the shade. And if you start to feel lightheaded or weak, seek shade, drink water, and just kind of be aware. Everybody is different, but if it's 100 degrees with 100% humidity, I would likely not be doing too much physical activity outside. But I would just tell people to use your best judgment and listen to your body.
And that hits on a point that Claudia mentioned. She ran outside a few weeks ago and she brought an umbrella. She used it from 10 to 1, and it was like resistance training with the upper body workout too. So I love that sentiment of, if you do plan on being outside in the heat, make sure that you're using maximum sun protection, and an umbrella. I mean, that gets the whole thing covered. A wide brim hat is also a great second backup.
Yes, love a good wide brim hat. Absolutely. Yes. And so some other things about the ocean, really please only swim at beaches with lifeguards. Even if you're a good swimmer, even if you have a friend, rip currents can form quickly, they can change quickly, and before you know it, you can be stuck in one. Definitely swimming with a buddy is always good, especially if the waves are a little rough, they'll know where to look for you. Pay attention to beach flags. We've linked to it here. So again, we send the slides. Feel free to check that out. Beach flags tell you about the safety of the beach. If waters are moderate, if they're dangerous, if there are marine hazards like jellyfish, right? Flags tell you those things. So learn them. And then what about sharks, right? We hear that a lot. Ooh, sharks. So the National Safety Council says that your chances of death by shark attack are about 1 in 3.7 million. So not very common, right? We tend to hear about those stories because they're, right, unbelievable, but you're really not likely to be the victim of a shark attack, but you can still practice precautions. So you want to avoid swimming near sandbars in areas where there are steep drop-offs. Sharks tend to like those areas. They like deep water, and they are especially active during twilight hours. So if you kind of just avoid some of those things, you should be completely good to go. And so I just mentioned jellyfish. Anyone who's ever been stung by a jellyfish knows it is terrible. I got stung when I was about 8 years old, and my entire arm swelled up, and it was there for about a month. So it can be really serious, can really, really hurt. And so just knowing what to do in that instance. If you get stung by a jellyfish, you'll be at a beach with a lifeguard anyway, because you're being safe. Go to your lifeguards. Beach lifeguards are very, very well trained, and they know how to treat jellyfish wounds. So go to them first. But if you don't have anybody else available, you want to flush the wound with vinegar if it's available, and then hot water. Not scalding hot. We don't want to boil our skin, but you do want to flush it with relatively hot water. Then afterwards, you want to use a mild hydrocortisone cream or an antihistamine cream to kind of help just cool and calm that sting. But there are a few things you don't want to do when you get stung by a jellyfish. Don't pee on it. I don't know where that came from, but so many people have probably heard that one. No, why would we do that? Please don't. You don't want to use cold water either, even though it might seem like the best idea because it's stinging. Hot water is going to do a much better job at getting rid of the poison from the jellyfish. And you also don't want to scrape it with a credit card. So sometimes when we get stung by a bee, the best way to get the stinger out is to do that. But with jellyfish stings, that's actually going to do more harm than good. If you do see some of the tentacle or anything on the burn still, find a way to remove it as best you can, but don't scrape it. And people can be allergic to jellyfish stings. Most people haven't experienced them, so they might not even know they have an allergy. So if it's really swelling up, they're having trouble breathing, you're noticing red rash on other parts of their body, call 911 because they could be having an allergic reaction. Any questions about the beach before we move on?
Nope, no new question. Vinegar works.
Huh?
Kathy says vinegar works as well.
Yes, definitely. If you have vinegar, that's the best first step for sure. Yes, absolutely. They also make like jellyfish sting sprays now. And actually at the beach, if you ever get stung, the lifeguard will actually spray you with vinegar. That is what they keep in bottles. So lots of good options there. But so we're going to talk about the pool next. In just some general pool safety, you want to enter the water feet first. A lot of the safety concerned around pools have to do with diving and head and neck injuries. So enter the water feet first unless you're extremely certain the water is very, very deep for diving. You also want to avoid excessive alcohol consumption when you're swimming or even just near open water. Even if you're a good swimmer, just having a couple drinks can impair you drastically. So you want to make sure that you're just being cautious. You know, my style as a health educator is I'm never going to tell y'all you can't drink by the pool, but just exercise caution and again, be around other people when you're doing that as well, but still 6 feet apart. Cover drains with compliant covers. If you do have a pool at your home, make sure that everything is compliant, your covers, your gates, especially if you have young children. And if you can't swim, don't, but you can learn how to swim with us. And because at Wellness and Recreation, we actually do have private and semi-private swim lessons. And a lot of people who don't learn to swim later in life have learned to swim with us. So once we open back up, we will be running those again. So if you've always wanted to learn how to swim, that is your chance. And so the less fun topic to talk about relating to pools is about drowning. You never ever leave children unattended by any amount of water, period. It's actually the leading cause of death for children ages 1 through 4 is unintentional drowning. So those of you with that are parents here, even if you don't have children, that's a pretty startling statistic. We hear of those stories, right? Even mom or dad just went to put something down for 1 minute, right? And somebody fell in. So always exercise extreme caution. It only takes a couple inches of water too for a young child to drown. So just always exercise extreme caution there. Another thing you can do is to learn CPR. There are many drowning deaths that result because the people pull that person from the water and they're not able to resuscitate them because they don't know CPR. So definitely taking that step too can make sure that if that unfortunate situation happens, you could be the person that can save somebody's life. If you have a pool at your home, use gates, use fences. If you have small children, you can actually get gates that have alarms. So if they're opened, you are notified immediately. So you should also always have a pool cover and make sure that pool cover is compliant too. Also, don't trust flotation devices and toys. So if you have a child who can't quite swim or they're an okay swimmer, you put some floaties on, think you're okay to leave them. Do not trust those. They can pop. They're not FDA regulated. They're not proven to prevent drownings or anything like that. So don't trust those. You should still be 100% there with your child if they're using a flotation toy. And if a child is missing, always check sources of water first. Check the pool, check the hot tub, check the bathtub, right? Any of those places, you want to check there first. So often people will look other places, and by the time they find that person in the water, it might be too late. So always check there first. So just some things to really think of. I know it's not the most fun topic, but the fact that that is the leading cause of death for children ages 4 is very startling. So just if you take all the necessary precautions, it's something you won't have to worry about. Any questions?
No new questions yet.
All right. So hydration, very important. So we want to make sure we're drinking enough water because like I said, it is hot, hot, hot. So just some hydration 101. As a general rule of thumb, you can drink about half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you want to drink about 100 ounces of water. And so some of the easiest ways to do that are to keep a reusable water bottle on you at all times. I love my Wellrec water bottle. It has the markings on the side. So I know if I drink one of these a day, I'm drinking 32 ounces of water, right? So a lot of people say, I don't really like water that much. You could try sparkling water. You could try adding fruit to your water to make it a little bit more exciting. Experiment, watermelon and basil or strawberry, lemon water, all of those things are delicious. Limit your caffeine intake. So if we drink too much caffeine, it can make us urinate more frequently. It is a diuretic. So if you are somebody who drinks a lot of coffee, make sure you are drinking a lot of water too. And thirst is often confused with hunger. Oftentimes we think we're hungry when we're actually just thirsty. So next time you're hungry, just drink a glass of water first and see if that helps. If not, you could absolutely just be hungry, right? But never hurts to have an extra glass of water. And if you're having trouble staying hydrated, you can try a schedule. You can set alarms on your phone. You can download apps that remind you to drink. For myself, just having my water bottle next to my workstation at my desk helps me to remember to drink that. Sometimes people will even make markings on their water bottle. I think you can even buy water bottles now that have times on them. So a lot of different strategies here, but we just want to make sure you are drinking enough water. If it's really hot out, like I know there's that question about being outside golfing, that will definitely be a day where you'll probably need to drink more than half your body weight in ounces. So if we're physically active, we're sweating a lot, if it's hot, you might need to up your intake as well. All right. Now we're gonna talk about fireworks and grills. Yay, fire. So Alexis really does not like fireworks. Not her favorite. So some tips for fireworks safety. If you wanna set off fireworks, do your thing, but avoid purchasing fireworks that are packaged in brown paper. That's usually an indicator that those are professional display fireworks and they're not really meant for the average consumer to use. You also want to supervise children around all fireworks, but there seems to be this idea that sparklers are like the safe alternative to fireworks, or they're kid friendly, when sparklers can actually burn up to 2,000 degrees. In some cases now sparklers can even burn up to 3,000 degrees. So the majority of firework related injuries to children are actually because of sparklers. So supervise children if they're around them. Always douse completed fireworks with water before you discard them anywhere. Even just a spark can set off a fire. So just cover them in water once you're done, and keep a water source nearby in case of a fire mishap. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, about 180 people go to the ER just around the 4th of July due to firework injuries. That's also a very, very low estimate. So most firework related injuries are often the face, hands, fingers. So just be really, really careful if you want to use fireworks. And then another fire safety in the summer is related to grills. So July is the peak month for grill fires in the United States. There are nearly 20,000 ER visits every year due to grill-related injuries. And children under 5 account for 39% of those visits. That's a really, really high number. So we want to make sure that we're being really, really cautious when we are grilling. It is an awesome part of summer, right? And it is pretty social distance safe as well. So just be aware, propane and charcoal grills should really only be used outside. Smoke inhalation kills. Make sure grills are at least 10 feet away from any structures. And also being aware where your children are and where your pets are around grills. So at least 3 feet away from the grill. Grills should never be left unsupervised anyway, even if you're just running in real quick to grab something. If you have a young child or an animal, they might not understand that it's dangerous, touch it, something could happen. So just always be with the grill while you're grilling. Always open the gas grill lid before lighting it. And then also just be prepared in case there's a fire. So there are different types of fires for grills, but if it's a grease fire, so if you can know there's a lot of grease on your grill, water is not the way to go there. You want to actually put baking soda on a grease fire. So just having baking soda near your grilling station is a great safety precaution. According to the National Fire Protection Association, 7 out of 10 adults in the US have a grill or a smoker. So obviously they're really popular. We love grilling. It's fun. It's part of summer, but this one says 8,900 grill related fires annually. So a lot of fires, a lot of ER visits. So let's just take all the precautions necessary to make sure that we do not become any of those statistics. All right. And so not the last thing, one of the later things we talk about is hot cars. And it's no secret that your car gets really hot in the summer, right? I have a black car with black interior, and when it's been sitting outside all day and I get in, sometimes I feel like I just walked, inside of an oven, right? It's so unbearably hot. And so there are a lot of safety precautions to take relating to hot cars, but especially surrounding leaving people in them. So never leave a child, an animal, a person unattended in a car ever, period, done. Even if the window's cracked, even if you'll just be a minute. A few reasons for this. One is that the inside of a parked car gets really hot, like really, really, really hot. In fact, can reach up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit just within a few minutes on a 78-degree day. When's the last time we've had a 78-degree day, right? It's been a minute. It can get up to 160 degrees in less than 10 minutes on a 90-degree day. So it gets hot very, very quick, probably much quicker than we think. Another reason why to never leave anybody inside of a car, even if you're just going to mail a letter. What if you leave your child in the car? You go to mail your letter and you fall and you get hurt and you can't return, right? Now you have a child stuck in a car when you thought you would just be a minute. So always just, even if it's an inconvenience, bring your child with you. If your animal's with you, bring them with you too. If not, maybe we should have left them at home. So just be very, very cautious about that. So if you do see a person who's unconscious or an animal inside of a car and it's a warm day, call 911. It's really not the best idea to break the window by yourself unless you can't access 911. But another thing we can do is check the nearest store. So let's say you're in the Harris Teeter parking lot and you see a baby in the car. Go into the store and ask them to make an announcement that this, if you are the owner of the white Honda with a baby in it, please come immediately. Then you can kind of avoid some of those issues. Like if, hey, you broke my car window, right? But when in doubt, definitely just call 911, and they're trained on how to handle those situations as well. All right, and the last big thing that we're going to talk about is bugs. Bugs are icky. I don't know about y'all, but no thanks. But they're a real part of summer, right? Bugs are here, and they, it's their home too. So there are some common disease-spreading insects in North Carolina. The two big ones being really mosquitoes and ticks. So mosquitoes can spread a number of viruses: Zika, West Nile, dengue, malaria, chikungunya was big a couple years ago. So there are a lot of different diseases that can be spread through mosquitoes. But ticks also can spread a lot of diseases. So Lyme disease is probably the most common. And although it's less common down in North Carolina, much more common in the Northeast. In fact, there's a town in Connecticut called Lyme, Connecticut, because that kind of Lyme, right? So it's not quite as common down here, but it still absolutely is here. Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and southern tick associated rash. These are all things that ticks can carry amongst other things. So highly recommend, if you we're outside, especially if you're in a wooded area, the best thing you can do is give yourself a tick check, especially warmer areas on your body. That's where ticks like to hide. So if you just went for a hike or you're just on the greenway or anything, when you go home, you can even do it when you're in the shower. Look around, and if you do see a tick, get those tweezers out. And they like to tell you to burn ticks. That's one of the best ways to make sure that they will not continue to spread their disease. But if you are going to be outside too and you want to protect yourself from mosquitoes, ticks, and other icky things, just don't apply any perfumes or scented soaps or anything, hair products. A lot of insects are attracted to those nice smelling things, just like people are, right? Try to avoid stagnant water. So anywhere where there's not free moving water, that tends to be a breeding ground for especially mosquitoes. So try to avoid those areas. And again, if you're going to be in a wooded area, using bug spray, you typically want to use something that's EPA registered. So a lot of those have DEET in them. Some people are sensitive to DEET. So I always recommend, just like with anything you put on your skin, patch testing. So testing a small area of your skin and seeing if there's a reaction there. Honeybees and hornets are attracted to bright flowery patterns. So something like what I'm wearing is probably not the best outfit if I'm going to be hiking in the woods, right? And again, use those EPA registered insect repellents. Sometimes we like to try to use more natural products here. I'm totally one of those people too. Like rosemary essential oil is sometimes what people use. There's just not a whole lot of clinical evidence that those really do work. But if you find it works for you, you can make that decision. For a lot of people, something with some level of DEET is usually more effective. Any questions about bugs?
So we've got just a couple of comments. Claudia mentions being mindful of chiggers as well, which I know some people might not know what those are. Those little red, bugs. I'm with you. I don't like bugs either. And then I just tossed a comment out there on the topic of ticks to be sure to check your hair or any hot spots, like creases of elbows, behind the knees and between toes, any of those hot spots. And if you can't check your hair, if you've got a lot of hair like me, have someone else in your household, if they can, check you for ticks as well. Yes, absolutely. And everybody agrees that chiggers are so itchy. Yes.
It's just such a gross feeling too, right? To know, like, oh, right. I used to be a summer camp counselor back in the day, and every year some cabin got infested, right? It was inevitable. But yeah, those are icky. So honestly, if you are questioning if you have bug bites or spider bites or any of those types of bites, and you're having any kind of abnormal reaction, just go to the doctor, get it checked out. Of course, there's sometimes you just can't avoid bug bites. I have quite a few on me myself right now from my hike the other day. So just, yeah, do what you can. If you have really, really itchy bug bites, like definitely using an anti-itch cream can help. But again, yeah, and that's great advice, Alexis, checking the hair. A lot of people who have Lyme disease that goes undiagnosed for a long period of time, it's often because the bite happened on their scalp. And typically with Lyme disease, you do see the, like, almost like a target of red rings. And oftentimes you can't see that. So definitely a good advice to make sure you are able to check that area as well. And so we've just included some of the resources that we talked about today, kind of divided them down into various things about facts, statistics, warning signs of things. I've included a couple links about dermatologist recommended sunscreens, and everything else that we've talked about in here. Everything is included here, so definitely feel free to check all of those out, and would definitely love if anyone has any questions. I'm going to stop my screen share in a minute. Again, we're going to send these slides out to everybody, so you can look through everything. But anyone have any questions or comments or anything they want to talk about?
Yeah,
I know
so
it's a lot of info, right? Like,
a lot of
I thought summer was supposed to be fun, right?
So I'm going to add into the links into the chat box right now for the FSA store. That is the place where you can know that the purchases that you're buying are qualified. They're eligible under our FSA card. So that's a place where you can go, and it extends beyond, you know, sun care. We just talked about sunscreen, but there's a plethora of other things that you can buy, Band-Aids, you know, any of your medical needs or overall health prevention needs, you can purchase those through the FSA store. And I see that they've got some pretty cool deals of getting, you know, some dollars off. So that's another way of saving money and making sure that you have everything that you need to stay safe.
Right. Thanks, Alexis. Definitely utilize that. I'm looking at our polls. Let's see. It looks like some of us went to the beach, some are barbecuing, and a lot of us are doing nothing because COVID ruined it all. So our sunscreen question. All right, there are 3 of you who wear it every day. All right, I know probably one is Alexis and another's probably Naomi. But you know, if one of you else is in here wearing sunscreen, good for you. But it seems like most of you are going to be better about it, because you know I'm going to be a little mad at you if you don't. So yeah, definitely check out those links if you're struggling to find a good sunscreen. Took me a couple tries. I'm a big Elta MD fan. It's magical. But there's a lot of amazing sunscreens out there as well. So just look for the 30 or above. A lot of Outer Bank fans. Only one vampire who doesn't go to the beach. All right, well that's good, I guess. And most people like hamburgers. Some of us don't like either. And
We did get
ice cream.
Where's the option to choose all of the above?
For beaches?
No, for food. Hamburgers,
right.
all of the above.
Yeah, give me everything, right? Absolutely, yes, for sure. Well, if y'all have any questions, definitely feel free to shoot me an email. We'll send out these slides soon. But I appreciate everybody logging on today, and thank you, Alexis, for inviting me to be the guest. You know, always fun to hop on these and see everybody's faces. So thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again, everybody, for joining the call. We got some great feedback. It's always great info and worth hearing again. And I can echo that absolutely, that we know this stuff, we're aware of it, but sometimes we need a gentle nudge and reminder, especially as summer only comes once a year. So thanks again, everybody, for joining the call today. We'll be sending out additional resources, and then you always have my contact information. We'll include Katie on that follow-up email. If you do have anything, you can always reach out to us. And we'll see you next time. And by next time, I mean August, because we are hosting an August session that I'll be sure to link you all to, healthy habits and behaviors for staying well. And our guest speaker for that call is actually going to be our very own Dr. Kasani down at Student Health. So we're going to be talking about how we can take care of ourselves in the wake of COVID and what that looks like integrating back into campus life. So I hope you all will join us for that call, and please be sure to share it with anyone else on your team who might find it beneficial. So again, thank you so much for stopping on today, and then we will see you at our next one on August 12th.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.